Ching's journal entry. We've traveled back to a time when Mars was still an unshaken colony of Earth. Before the whispers of rebellion began to stir. It feels strange, knowing we are standing on the precipice of something huge and yet having the advantage of foresight. The workers don't know it yet, but their future is already being written. We've bought ourselves time, time to lay the groundwork, to build trust where it's needed, to plant the seeds of the revolution long before it has a chance to sprout. I'm staring at the biosphere through the window, knowing that, in a few years, this will be one of the few places that thrives. But we can't wait for things to change on their own. We have to make it happen. We'll turn the past into our weapon, and when it's time, Mars will rise. End journal entry. As the crew prepared to set their next time anchor, Ching stared at the glowing interface, her fingers hovering over the controls. The plan was clear. Travel back to a time when Mars was still under Earth's full control, before the cracks in their power were visible. The revolution hadn't yet started, and the workers were still enslaved by the corporate overlords of Earth. By setting the time anchor here, they would ensure a strategic advantage, influencing key moments in Mars history. Ching stood at the window, her gaze fixed on the Martian landscape. The glass dome of the biosphere shimmered in the distance, nestled against the rugged canyon wall. Inside, life thrived, but outside, Mars remained a barren wasteland. The workers who lived here, toiling for Earth's gain, were starting to see that something was changing. Ching had been careful in her approach. The revolution couldn't happen overnight. She had known from the start that Mars wouldn't rise simply because a few space pirates had landed. They had to earn the trust of the workers, not just offer empty promises. In the control room of the ship, the crew was busy coordinating with the revolutionaries on the moon. Ted and Tom were in constant communication, managing the encrypted channels that linked them with the Martian workers. They had to keep it quiet. If Earth or Monolith suspected their involvement, the rebellion could be crushed before it ever had a chance. Ching's voice echoed over the comms, speaking to the small but growing network of Martian leaders. We can't make it happen all at once, she said, standing in front of the window. It takes time, but if we play this right, we'll make them see that we're here to stay. Weeks passed in a blur of subtle sabotage and covert meetings. Ching and the crew continued their work, staying under the radar. They were establishing connections, finding sympathetic Martian leaders, and laying the groundwork for a full-scale revolution. It wasn't easy. Many of the workers were afraid. They had spent so long under Earth's control that the idea of rebellion seemed almost like a fantasy. But slowly, the crew earned their trust. They proved they weren't here to rule, they were here to help. The rebellion, Ching knew, would be built on solidarity, not violence. At least not yet. One evening, Ching sat in the dimly lit mess hall, a room full of Martian workers seated around her. They were no longer strangers, but comrades, each with a different story. Some had lived their entire lives under Earth's rule, others had grown disillusioned with the promises of prosperity. Now, they were hearing the truth. You've been working for them for too long, Ching said, her voice firm yet empathetic. You are the lifeblood of this planet. Without you, Earth wouldn't even have the resources to survive. It's time to take back what's ours. A few workers nodded, their eyes full of skepticism, but there was also hope, a glimmer that hadn't been there before. I know it's hard to believe, she continued, but together, we can stop the flow of resources to Earth. The supply lines are ours to sever. We have the power to make them feel it. On Earth, Monolith's agents were beginning to take notice of the increased activity on Mars. Reports started filtering in about minor disruptions, small acts of sabotage, communications being cut, workers mysteriously disappearing. Monolith wasn't worried yet, but the situation was starting to snowball. In the control room, Monolith's voice was cold and methodical as it gave instructions to its agents. Monitor Mars closely. This uprising will be nipped in the bud before it gets any bigger, it said, its mechanical voice carrying the weight of authority. If they think they can outsmart us, they'll learn the hard way. Back on Mars, the workers were beginning to take action, quietly at first. Ching's message was spreading. Martian workers had begun to organize, unionizing their sectors, striking when necessary, and using the resources they had at their disposal to cause disruption. Ching met with the Martian leaders once again, laying out a plan. The sabotage needed to become bolder, more disruptive. They could no longer just strike at the edges of Earth's control, they needed to hit the core of their infrastructure. We are ready, one of the Martian leaders said, his voice steady but full of purpose. Let's show Earth that they can't keep us in chains. Ching nodded, her eyes scanning the faces around her. These workers weren't just asking for a better life anymore, they were demanding it. We are taking this fight to them. It's no longer just about us, it's about every worker across Mars. Together, we'll bring Earth to its knees. As the crew prepared to make their next move, Ching looked out at the Martian landscape, the winds blowing the red dust around them. It had taken time to get here. But now, Mars was ready, and with that, they could take the next step. Disrupt Earth's control, one supply line at a time.